Okay, I'll call to order the Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019 meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For our latest two elected board members to not be here in their second meeting.
Southgate's mission statement is Learning for Life. Vision statement is Southgate Community Schools, the best choice for students and parents. Okay, do we have any revisions to the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to add action item 3 to the action items.
Okay. That's the approval of the purchase of HAAS TL-2 tool room lathe?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so we have one addition for action item 3.
Make that a consent.
Any other additions or revisions? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for the revised agenda from Dr. Pomponio and supported by Mr. Koopser. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. And first is citizens' comments. Is there anybody here who would like to speak tonight? Okay, seeing none. We are quickly on to presentations, which is Employee of the Month. This is going to be presented by Ms. Chilson.
Hi, good evening. Have the
evening.
holder again.
Good evening.
Yes. I'm Renee Chilson. I'm the principal at Allen. This is Veronica Johnchecki. She's the administrative assistant. She doesn't even really know why she's here until now. Would you hold this, please? Okay. So we were challenged as administrators to pick one person off of our staff to recognize for Employee of the Month, which is a very difficult thing to do when you have an outstanding staff. So I took it to I think it was a staff meeting, and I asked how they would like to handle it. Maybe we put names in a basket, we take a vote, and unanimously everyone said that we should nominate Veronica, which I agree totally. So everyone sent me what they would like to be said, and we put together just a little poster that says Miss Veronica, and it describes a lot about her. So she's a member of our Allen family, sunshine that brightens our days, very welcoming to all who enter Allen. Everyone is treated with love, really sweet to all, one of the kindest people you will meet, never gives up, important to all of us, calm in everything she does, above and beyond what is expected. So Miss Veronica is important to our Allen family, and we want to thank her for all that she does to make Southgate Schools the best choice for students, parents, and staff. So with that, Miss Veronica, I would like to present you the plaque for Employee of the Month for January. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Veronica's crying.
She obviously didn't know she was going
Right.
Set her up.
There's a surprise attack for you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of January 8, 2019 regular board meeting minutes and the HR update. Would anybody like to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Mr. Koopser,
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
supported by Mr. Estheimer. Okay, is there any discussion on consent? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, consent's approved. And we're on to the first action item, which is March application period for School of Choice. Who's presenting this?
So I would like to request that the board approve the school choice enrollment for up to 50 kindergarten seats. I provided copies of the Wayne Risa application and the current statistics for school choice students.
Any questions for staff? I have one. Where are we at with our numbers? I mean, are we just as many as we can get, or do we have a specific number that we want, or?
No, so with kindergarten, we've done 50 for the last 3 to 4 years that I know of, and then what we'll do is, in February, we always ask our elementary students, or the parents of the elementary students, to fill out a return request, so we can get a sense of the numbers. And then if, for example, right now, we have some first grades in a couple of the buildings that are around the 19 and 20 mark, so those classrooms can take a few students in order to be at our 24, 25 mark. So then we try to backfill and advertise for those specific numbers. And our application isn't unlimited. It is a limited number, and that's why we'll advertise it once we do the next round. You'll see those numbers before you approve it.
No, I understand why we do kindergarten now, and then we'll do the others later after we have a better idea, but do we have a plan, or is it just keep getting school of choice, as many of them as we can? I mean, I guess my hope is that at some point we get out of the school of choice game. I don't know if I'm alone in that or not, but just filling seats because they're empty sometimes I don't think always makes sense. I think sometimes you got to find your right number and work to that, whatever that number is.
So the scary part is that I think about when we did our reconfiguration and we closed 2 buildings, we essentially eliminated about 100 students per grade level moving forward. And we're not even through seeing those 100 students through to graduation, less per grade level. And what this essentially does, if our kindergarten numbers are around, we took 40 last year in kindergarten, if they stay at about that pace, then we're eliminating another 40 on top of it, and probably looking at closing an elementary building sooner rather than later when you look at those kinds of numbers. And I look at the surrounding communities that have been pretty static while we've been losing kids as a result of our reconfiguration. And I guess my goal is to try to stabilize us, even if it is with some school of choice. And if you take them in as kindergartners, then you hopefully can keep them through graduation and mean that we're not constantly trying to catch up from the loss of students. So,
What year was the configuration?
2014.
2014? Okay.
13, 14.
13.
That was the first year without those 2 elementary schools. So-
Which
so
both
12
of those
is the-
elementaries housed 2 kindergartens in each, so that's why I'm getting that number of 100.
Okay, sure.
So has the enrollment for School of Choice gone down too as well over the past few years?
So we have more students that are choosing surrounding districts, well, and we are taking in less school of choice. Last year, we were at 24% at this time, and we're up to 25%, which is not a huge difference, so we're staying pretty steady at the 24, 25 mark.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Seeing none, would anybody like to make a motion on the action item?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the School of Choice application period for up to 50 kindergarten seats for a 2-week period from Monday, March 4th, 2019 to Friday, March 15th, 2019.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
I'll support.
Supported by Mr. Estimer. Any discussion? I guess I'll go ahead and say I'll support this, but I'm really starting to lean towards not supporting this in the future. I don't know that our answer is in other districts and pulling from other districts, so I think we need to start thinking that way, but.
To your point, Jason. Mr. Cooper. So I understand to some level, I understand your point, but it's not like if we were to not approve this, that the other districts themselves wouldn't approve it themselves. And they still have the ability to pull from our resident population to go to those districts. So all you're allowing yourself to do is not allow for additional income per student, FTE, to come in. So it's like, if you don't, it's one thing to say, I don't want to play the game, but if everybody else is still playing it, it puts you at a disadvantage. So as much as I would like to have our students, our citizens served by our district, and tell all the other surrounding districts that are siphoning them out of our city, get on board with the same way, all we're doing is ourselves a disadvantage.
I don't disagree. It's not all about not taking kids from other districts. The other part is we can't seem to get that answer as to what's that number of kids, what's that right number, because it's kind of like when UPS ships packages, right? They can ship a certain number of packages in a truck or a train or an airplane or wherever they ship it. One more package, which they're only charging you $3 for, has to go on a whole nother. So at what point are we getting to that? What's that student that moves us to that next, one? We have to, and if a kid moves into the district, we have to take that kid. But what's that right number, I guess, I haven't heard an answer to that. I've been asking it for.
Yeah, I know you're talking about
Yeah.
plateaued expenses as incremental, and it's not flatlined. It's plateaued. I get that.
At what point does that one more kid cost us this much money? And it's one thing if it's a kid from the district that we have to take. It's another thing if we're going out and asking for them to come from another district to be here. So I guess that's my.
I feel like we're not in a position to be able to say no because that extra increase of a new classroom, we're stemming the tide of loss is what they're trying to do. So
Potentially.
I just don't feel like we're in a position to say no. We could,
Right.
and we might be a ways off of that.
I also haven't seen any stats on if they become transient. We have taken 50 kindergartners for how long? How many of those are still in the district 4 years later and 5 years later and 6 years later? Is it a transient population that we're dealing with? So those are questions that I have and concerns rather than just opening up. Dr. Pomponio?
I personally think that as long as the students want to come to Southgate and every other district around us are taking still school of choice, I think we should offer them that opportunity to be a Southgate Titan. But I think that there is room for discussion if there's, we start heading into deficit and we start looking at everything else as a big picture, then we can look at it that way. But, excuse me, I personally don't want to see, especially when everyone else has opened their doors over a period of time, everyone's starting to open their doors. I think that we should offer the student to learn here if they want to learn here.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Coops?
I just wanted to follow up with your comment is that I think it should be, we need to have a concerted effort to try and figure out why are we losing students. And I know that we've talked about exit interviews, we talked about why people are leaving, trying to track who these students are that come from other districts and come to us, and are they staying as long as we'd like to. We don't really understand that, and I think that to root cause why we keep continuing to shed students is very concerning, and whether it's our citizens or it's people from a school of choice, one or the other, we just don't have that answer. And maybe it's something that we need to talk about in terms of a direction of the board to make the district understand that. So
Mr.
I agree with you.
Mr. Craig?
Pastor?
Last year, I sent approximately 50 personalized notes to some students that have left the district and asking the parents to call with any suggestions about what we might do moving forward, and I got exactly one call back. What we're finding is when we call parents, they don't answer the phone and they don't return our calls, so I tried the personalized message. One person called, it was a middle school and they had a disagreement that with one of her best friends, and it became like a bullying incident, and they chose to choose a new, different school district because of that. But we are having difficulty getting those exit surveys completed when they make different choices. So we've tried a couple different ways, but it is good information to have if we can gather it.
And I mean, those are lagging indicators, you know, after they've left, what's the reason? I mean, maybe you get ahead of it, they're leading indicators. Maybe there's getting a group together of parents and talking to them about what are things that they can think about, why they switched. Maybe maybe a different way to skin the cat. But I don't think just because we weren't successful with the one doesn't mean we throw our hands up. We got to keep trying to figure out how to crack this nut, so.
Agree.
I know just from a few students and parents that I've spoken with that it's just, wasn't any issues in the district, but it was just a financial thing because they're renters and they had to move to a different area altogether, so it could be really part of that too.
Sure. Any other discussion on the item? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Item number 2, the 2018-2019, number 2, parent volunteer request. So, Jill, are you presenting this one?
So you received a copy of an email and the iChat of a parent who wishes to volunteer for Southgate Schools. So you have the option of approving it or not approving it based on the information that was attached.
Any questions for staff on this?
I had a question. if I
Mr. Cruiser.
can, regarding the process, not about this particular incident. When there's circumstances that cause for this to come from the board for approval, how often are the volunteers for the different events or activities, how often are they questioned with the same set of questions that a person who is new? So let's say something came up between the last year and this year, I'm a volunteer this year.
So we run what's called an iChat, which is actually not a series of questions. It's a copy of their driver's license. It goes to the Michigan State Police. Once they get cleared, they are on file to be able to volunteer for 2 years following that positive result. When they get anything, for example, a felony is an automatic no. And when they have a positive hit or something on their record, then it comes to me. And there are occasions where, for example, they can volunteer, but they can't handle district funds. They can volunteer, but they can only drive their own students. So there are some times that they are allowed to volunteer with certain restrictions. If it comes to the board, it's because I denied the privilege of volunteering, and they want to appeal my no.
Thank you.
Anyone else? In the past, when we've gotten these, I mean, I as a standard practice, I'm going to ask your opinion of this. Is this one you recommend or not?
So this is difficult because the only other one that I brought to the board was a person that I actually knew about. I actually don't know this person, so I only know them via a phone call and via email.
But you said no. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And the reason I put both motions was because I mean, they want you to look at their information and make a decision, because I said no, yes.
Okay.
For the future, can we just put the single motion and agree a yea or nay on it? Because it adds confusion when you had two different types of motions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
no,
just the
I understand what
language,
you're
it's just
saying.
how to read it, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, anybody's free to make a motion. You don't
Okay.
have to follow these are formats. They
Right,
free
right.
to make any motion you'd want. But, so, any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on the action item.
Mr. President, based on the information contained within this confidential document, I unfortunately make a motion to not allow the 2018-19-1 parent to volunteer for Southgate Schools. There's many more questions I have, but since it's a confidential document, there's little that I can ask publicly. But based on the information I have, those are the facts that I have, that's my motion.
I have one question. It's the agenda says parent number 2. The motion says parent number 1.
I'm sorry.
Is it-
It's number 1
It is
for
number
the school
1,
year.
okay. Okay. All right, I have a motion on the table. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, a motion and support. Any discussion on the item?
Without giving out too much information, regardless of the offenses, it's recent, and it's too close to students, in my opinion, to give the okay, regardless of the offenses, I think, at this time.
Okay. Mr.
Mr.
Green?
President, and I'll piggyback without going into detail, is that I've always been a firm believer that we're, the appeal process, and for something to happen in the appeal process from our superintendent, I would personally have to see something that goes above and beyond that would make me want to change the decision of the person that we put in charge that we trust and to run this school district on a day-to-day basis. And I just don't see that in this document, that there's something so egregious that our superintendent missed. So in that aspect, I would have to side with the superintendent's decision on this.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the item? I'm going to pair my comments along with Mr. Green, and I have to support the superintendent on this when it comes to who we put in our schools and who we allow to have contact with our kids. I trust the system, and I trust Ms. Pastor's judgment on this, and again, like Mr. Green said, I don't see anything in here that would change my opinion of that. So, okay, with no more discussion, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. One opposed. The motion passes. Action item number 3, which is our added item, which is the approval of the purchase of HAAS TL-2 tool room lathe. You're handing this one off, Joe?
I have, for sure. It's
Okay.
mechatronics materials.
right.
I'm not an expert.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to bring this before the board. I understand the new procedures in place, so that's why I approached Ms. Pastor to help me get this one through. There is a deadline, as you're aware of the demand for a lot of the equipment in industry, and also really some of the impacts of the tariffs are starting to drive some of these equipment costs up too. So the way this purchase, it's a pass-through grant from Wayne County RESA. We collaborated on to bring some money and equipment into the district, in this case, the mechatronics program. The grant was written towards the end of December. It was just approved in mid-January, and I had, in mid-January, verified the prices were still there a few days later. And that's when I approached Ms. Pastor and let her know we were good. We're okay to move forward on this, and then I found out there's some new procedures in place. So I was told at the time, right around that time, that if we don't purchase it by the end of January, there's a 4% increase, and on a $40,000 item, that'll be approximately $1,600. That would have to come from somewhere unless we get the order in place before then. It is a sole source provider. Haas works with Henry Ford for CNC manufacturing. CNC skills are interchangeable. There's no question there. It's almost like computer coding. But Haas is a specific certification, almost like for computer programming, C++, or something very specific. And Henry Ford is a certified Haas equipment provider, and they are a trainer for them too. And everything in the mechatronics program is Haas up to this point. So I was approaching the school board, asking them for their permission to go ahead and place this order.
Okay. Any questions? Dr. Pomponio.
And this is funding coming from a grant?
This is through Wayne County RESA grant.
Okay.
And just so the school board is aware, there's new procedures in place. The money would be fronted by the school board, but it would be reimbursed. We have an email from Wayne County. It is part of the Perkins grant. We've never had them not go ahead and reimburse us for it. The money is always there. It starts from the federal dollars, federal gets allocated to the state, and then in a slow roundabout way, it eventually comes back to the district.
That's essentially the way title works. We spend the money, and then we request the funds and get the money, so.
That's it, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So none, we'll bring the discussion back to the table. I'll entertain a motion on the action item.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the HAAS TL-2 tool room lathe not to exceed $40,000.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Cooper. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion on the item? No? Just for everybody, we have a procedure in place for spending this money, and this is kind of circumventing it a little bit, but due to the unique nature of the equipment, the specialized equipment, and the urgency of the timing on it, I think this is a reason to kind of skip that procedure. So, with that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Do we have any employee representatives who'd like to speak tonight? Not everybody at once? No? All right, information and announcements. Dr. Pomponio.
We are still working on the bathroom stalls project at the Davidson Middle School. So that's going to be, we're going to continue and hopefully finish up January 26th and 27th. So if any parent or any teacher or anybody would like to go out and help us on the weekend, this weekend, we'd like to get that finished up so we can get the writing on the stalls and ready for the students to be inspired. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Mr. Cooper.
I'd like to add to our retreat an item related to our budget graphs and how we review those as a board and talk to the superintendent about that, maybe on every other meeting type of notice. But a topic to be brought up at the retreat for us to figure out what we do with this information and how we would like the superintendent to prepare for that set of questioning.
Okay. Anything else? All right, seeing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Support. Motion by Mr. Estheimer, supported by Mr. Green. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.